We're really live.
Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the show. This is Kimberly Warren with the Solutions Summit, and it is 7:30. And we just want to invite you all to come on in and please go on and share this with other people that want to ask questions. We have LD Data Solutions, Lamina Davis, who will be monitoring the back room. And if you want to make comments, she will make sure that our questions are presented before our panelists tonight. So speaking of our panelists, I think everybody is here. We may have some come in early, and we have our school district candidate for the school board, David Lyric Foster, who's going to be joining us in a little bit, just getting out of a really hot interview. So we are going to start tonight. We have a wonderful topic, and I'm going to introduce the panelists. And if you have not watched the Solution Summit every week, 7:30 Central Standard Time, we have 4,000 plus viewers now that are coming in to talk about racial reconciliation, solutions to repairing the breach, why people are so mad and angry in the first place. Can't we all get along in Merica? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. This is our first night ever featuring the brightest and the most intelligent young people of America. So if you didn't know, you're going to know in just a few minutes who are our future leaders of this nation. Okay, I think we're ready to go. This is Mid-City Excellence Community Learning Center, located at 604 South 20th Street, something good in the hood, where we're inspiring a generation of excellence. I'm Kimberly Warren, your live show host of the Solution Summit. And let's go on and right now introduce our panelists. And so we have all the way from Nashville, Tennessee. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Hopefully, maybe one day in St. Joseph, Missouri, but all the way in Nashville, we have the soon-to-be, after she defends her dissertation on Tuesday, the future Dr. Robin Feline Lemon. Woo! Everybody give her a hand. What you been doing down in them parts for the last, since 2003, you've been in education?
Right. I've been teaching middle school students, yes, since 2003. And currently I am the Dean of Students at a middle school here in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh my goodness, that is just wonderful. So today, if you didn't know, it is the family reunion. We have cousins, we have nephews, in-laws, we have little nieces that are going to be on here. And this is what we do around the holidays and the Thanksgiving and 4th of July. They say, don't talk about religion, don't talk about politics, don't talk about hot topics, but we're going to talk about it all tonight. So we have hot topics at our family discussion. So again, we have Dr. Robin Feline, who is here, and we're just tickled to have her on the show. We also have nephew Bryan Alford the third. Is that right, Bryan? Yeah. The third. He is in Kansas City now, but some people in St. Joseph know him as the drum liner king and the drum champion. Also, he was the robotics, I don't know, I'm always throwing titles on him. He's like, whatever, Aunt Kimmy. Boy genius, robotics. And he went to UMKC for, was it Photonics?
Yes.
Yes, I know all about that. For Photonics, and he's going to talk and share his perspective on the world today. Bryan, how are things? Are they as hot down there as they are up here an hour away?
Well, it depends on what you mean by hot.
90 degrees hot and humid, so we're doing pretty good today.
Oh, okay, well, we're pretty decent down here.
Well, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. We also have Mr. Warren Webb, my first cousin, who is running Merica. I think he's been social distancing. Are you grounded, or are you still all over the world with your insurance company?
I am now strictly in the Kansas City area, but I do, with a small child, if I go out and I'm marching or anything, I do social distance for about a week or so before the wife will let me back around her and the kids. So.
Well, I thought it was hazardous, going to incessant damage for, natural disasters and stuff, but you have one or two kids now.
One kid, about to be 2 years old. So yeah.
Wow, fantastic. So thank you for being here on the show. I've seen your comments on social media and just like, we've got to tap his brain. So thank you for being here today. He's also in Kansas City, Missouri or Kansas?
Correct. On the
Okay.
on the south
Okay,
Kansas City.
you got to know what side you're talking about because a lot of people have made some mistakes.
Warren, you live in Kansas City?
I do. I'm right next to Leewood out by Avila.
Man, I live on Paseo. Man, I didn't even know you lived in Kansas City. It's good to know.
Y'all
We'll
practically
get together.
neighbors. Good deal. We also have Miss Mama J, Jordan Danielle Alford, and she is on the show. She's been spending some good time here in St. Joseph, Missouri, running the dance teams at Missouri Western State University, but she's in Kansas City now, but it's just an hour away. Mama J, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. Yeah, happy to give my 2 cents where it's asked and, put my foot forward towards change. So
wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I know you were busy last week and she's going to tell you a little bit about her background in business and journalism and podcasts. And she's highly sought after with Fortune 500 companies. It would be nice if anybody's watching today, her resume's out there on LinkedIn. Jordan J. Alford. Is it Jordan or J on LinkedIn?
It's both.
Oh, there
Jordan
you go.
parentheses J. Alford. So I always put it both out there.
What's your expertise? What are you
So I graduated in strategic communication and journalism, and I have a minor in dance and entrepreneurship. Right now, I am a podcast producer for the Master in College to Career podcast and the Medical Sales podcast. Still looking for full-time work because I just graduated into COVID. So yeah, anybody looking to hire Mama J, let me know.
There you go. Go look up her resume or I'll just give you her direct number. We're glad to have you here tonight. And then we also have on our Solution Summit, Mr. Isaiah Williams, and he's everything inventions and engineering. And what's your background in, Isaiah? Again, I can't keep up with you or understand half the text messages you're sending. What's your background?
Right now, I'm working on my company. I'm majoring in 5 majors: electrical engineering, electronic, mechanical, engineering design, and engineering tech.
Goodness, we need to diversify our labor unions here. Please come to St. Joseph. Somebody's watching him today. He's already done an internship at Honeywell. Is that correct?
Yes.
He's already done an internship at Honeywell, and COVID kind of got everybody distracted with their internships and their jobs and stuff, but he is the brightest and the most brilliant out there. So we need more engineers. And so hopefully somebody's inboxing me right now. You guys don't have to give me a commission on this show, but we'll talk later. So anyway, I think we're ready to get started again. If you want to jump in on our live show, this is our 6th or 7th week of doing this, and we really just want to bring hot topics to you. Before I do that, we have coming up July 19th. Whoa, look at that. It's on our, is that backwards, Lamina, or does that look okay?
You're good.
Okay, so this is Hate Has No Home in St. Joe. And July 19th, we have a huge Solution Summit community forum with the YWCA, who says we are eliminating racism. And so they're standing with us at Civic Center Park, 1100 Frederick, or City Hall on the south side of City Hall. We have keynote speaker Janet Candy Embry, who is from St. Joseph, Missouri, now the VP over American Family Insurance in Wisconsin. She's going to be our keynote speaker. We have 6 or 7 other speakers that are going to be joining us. We are understanding what racism is. We're acknowledging it. We don't want all white people to think they have to pay for slavery. We're not asking for reparations, although some people on the show may be asking for some reparations tonight, but we're trying to be repairers of the breach and bridge the gap, form of sense of community between people of color. And also we're giving out some free t-shirts. Now go to our www.mce.org, visit mce.org, and you can get a sign that says hate has no home here in St. Joe. We've got the Mid-City logo and the YWCA logo. So I had to put that plug in there. You can get signs, all summer long, but the Y has them. You can pick them up there. You can also come to the community forum 5 to 7, July 19th. This is on a Sunday. We will be outside. You could bring your lawn chairs. You can also bring your blankie, and you could bring your cold water, and we're going to sit on the lawn 6 feet apart, and we're going to listen to some wonderful speakers. So please come out, save the date, don't be late. So now hang on to your seat. You are in for a treat. Today we're going to talk about the American dream, brilliant, Black, and bold. The American dream, brilliant, Black, and bold. We always start with some hot topics, and our hot topic number 1 today is, for those of you that are here that have protested, for those of you that have stood up for your rights, maybe professionally, and you protested in a different manner, or you brought about awareness through public engagement, or going back to that boardroom saying, hey, we got to sit down and talk about these microaggressions and the little code words that you're using. However, you're standing up to bring about awareness. What do you feel is motivating the young people? And for Dr. Robin, her life has been devoted to those 7th and 8th graders who are not even sure if they're young people or old people or teenagers or what they are. God bless you. And so for those young people that are leading the movement, Black, white, Latino, a little bit of everybody. Is this just a Black Lives Matter thing? The young people, what do you think is motivating the country to make peaceful protests and get folks out of their comfort zone and stand against injustices and police brutality? Anybody can just jump in there.
Yeah, I can start things out if that's all right. I would think the biggest thing that me, and maybe I'd say ego 35 or 40 and under, is that these are the first generations to grow up with social media being a daily part of their lives, and I don't think anything's changed. It's just that we now are able to see it in real time and be able to discuss it instantaneously. And in the past, you're waiting a day or two for a newspaper or a particular cable outlet's view, and just the amount of information going back and forth just has enlightened people, and you're able to do your own research, get the facts, and once you actually have the truth, it's just easy to run with it from there.
Anybody else want to jump in there? Because a lot of people have been passive. A lot of people want to say, we don't need to make a lot of noise, or that's not how I want to fight. That is so uncouth. I can't believe that they're out there with their signs saying these things. Other people are saying, we've been in school all this time talking about the storming of the Bastille, the Boston Tea Party, coup d'etats, and all this stuff. And so for us, it's a natural fit to say, I can't sit back in my privilege. I can't sit back in my freedom and comfort and not stand up against this. So was it easy? Has it been easy for you to be involved? Are you all fighting the same way? How many, raise your hands if you've done a march or been down there? I know, Warren, I saw you on Facebook. I was praying for you, dog. You wasn't throwing no bricks, though. I know you wasn't throwing no bricks.
No. But, I often ask myself, if I was, 20 or 30 something back in the 50s when Martin Luther King was watching, would I be that person on the sideline, or am I going to be out there right by his side? And to me, it's an easy decision. We know change happens when people actively engage on things they believe in peacefully. It can happen. We've seen it in the past. So we're just keeping that tradition alive until, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, certain goals are met.
Wow. So it was a natural fit.
Oh, sorry. I wanted to piggyback on Warren. I think with our generation, again, growing up with social media, growing up with having access to so much information all at once, that definitely, it opens our eyes to things faster. But I also think that because we're younger, typically the younger people, we have more time on our hands, we have more money. to blow.
Wait, you got money? You got money?
I mean, not right now, but we have more expendable resources. So I think that during these times, especially with everybody being home right now, to sit back and be silent during these times is really, really hard for my generation. For you to act, first of all, we are not our grandparents, we are not our aunties, or we are not our uncles. We are very, very bold in the way we communicate and the way that we stand up for what we believe in. I think that's why now a lot of people in the older generation feel like, man, they're taking away everything. Everybody's getting canceled. Everything's whatever, but our generation just will not stand for certain things. And so I think that now's the time where you'll see a great divide in some people, and they'll be like, that generation just is, what do they call it, snowflakes or something like that. They say that we're weaker, or that we really we don't have a backbone in things. But I think that if anything, we have a stronger backbone, because we're willing to take that stand and risk it all and say these things are not okay, and we're going to be the ones to make a change. So
we're not gonna call this brilliant black and bold. We're gonna call it the black snowflakes. No, I've never heard that term before. Robin, you heard that term before?
No, I haven't heard that. I mean, I'm from Nebraska and hadn't heard about that snowflake one.
I'm sorry. Are you telling me you've never heard anybody call anybody else a snowflake? Because that's like, every time I speak up, I feel like somebody calls me a snowflake.
They always call us snowflakes. They say that we have no backbone and that we just are weaker and basically can't, take up for ourselves or whatever they feel. But hey.
So you feel like this is an opportunity for you to stand on something that you're convicted in and say, hey, we can be a part of this. We may not have all the money we need. We may not have the clout. But in one way, I think that this is a good thing because you're not politically correct. And sometimes I think African Americans have wanted to stand up, but we wanted to keep our jobs. We wanted to keep our reputation. We didn't want to be the mad, angry Black people. So we've powered down and say, I'm going to fight this a different way, or I'm going to wait for the right time. Or so we probably wanted to secure our spot and fight it a different way. So you all have a great opportunity of saying, we're not going to be a part of the destruction, but we are going to be a part of the ones that stand up and say injustice can't live on this block. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Absolutely. In fact, I've made it a point where in any interview or any company that I'm researching or looking to work for, they have to have, made a stance or something to where they show that they are actively looking to take steps towards the progression of my people. And if you are not in support of my people, then you're not in support of me. So I have made it very, I have a very strong conviction on that. And so one of the questions that I ask people whenever I'm interviewing is, what steps have you taken, to progress your company during these times? And, is your company's culture progressive in that way? Are you guys, working on your diversity and inclusion plans? Are you looking to take a step in anti-racism plans? Like, those are things I need to know, because ultimately, if I'm going to be supporting a company, I know I'll be an asset at whatever company that I work for, but I need to know that I am bringing revenue to a company that I can support and that supports me. So I think
you're interviewing that company and saying, are you worthy of my time and my talent? You're just not trying to pay off student loans and get a job so you can have a house?
Absolutely. If anything, I mean, I do know that at some point, you do have to have some leeway in some areas, but that's not one that I'm willing to budge on. So I really, really vet who I am applying for, and at the same time, making sure that you're not just putting out a PR statement to say that, yes, we have diversity and inclusion. I want to actively see that you've been doing this, and that, on LinkedIn, I'll reach out to some of their employees and say, hey, your company says that they do this for, your community, but are they actually actively taking care of you? You know what I mean? So I think that's very important. And I think in the past, maybe a lot of people were willing to just say, hey, this isn't necessarily something where racism is not, what would you say? It's not an excuse or anything like that. So some companies or some people in the past might have been able to accept certain things and just kind of keep their head down and be like, hey, we'll accept this job. I got a family to take care of. Well, it's just me. I don't got no kids. I'm not married. So therefore, I have to make sure that whatever I choose to seal my roots at a company, I make sure that that's a company that I truly can get behind and that they can support me as well.
Wow, this is awesome. I know a lot of companies I've talked to are saying we cannot find people of color to apply for these jobs, or we don't have the resources to attract them. And they have so many choices once they finally get their degree or certificate or become an engineer or welder, that it's difficult to attract them here. And so we have been talking about diversifying the hiring boards and diversifying their board of directors. So because I know people from Nashville, all over the world, and maybe I'll be able to persuade them to at least come here for an interview. And so that was really good. I think the workforce is becoming more selective, and they don't want to go in and have to fight the same battles that I fought, being the only African-American in my whole entire school. They don't want to have to fight those same battles and work hard. I think they want to work hard, but not on racist, discriminatory issues, because what people don't realize is the mental health toll that it takes on each of us to not only be brilliant, Black, and living in America, but it just takes a toll trying to prove that we are smart, that we are hard workers, that we'll be diligent team players. And then we have to fight some of the microaggressions and some of the code languages that are racist, and decide how we're going to pick and choose those battles. So do you all think that the protests have been effective? Do you think that there might be a better way? Do you think protests, Warren, you most recently have actually been on the Kansas City streets. When I saw them rioting, I was like, okay, we're crossing the line, not Cheesecake Factory. That's how I knew anarchists was doing it, because I was like, Black folks ain't gonna burn down no Cheesecake Factory.
Exactly. And the thing, if you go home by the time the sun goes down, you're going to miss out on most of that kind of different element that tends to show up later at these kind of events, I'd say. But as far as are they effective, I think the fact that we're seeing so much pushback making people uncomfortable only proves the point that they are effective. That means you've got people having to challenge their traditional views, their ways of lives are going to change, and that's making people angry. And that's good, because it strikes conversations like we're having right now. So the more dialogue that's going, the more attention that's brought to the matter, the more people will research it, learn about the actual history of the country that you're not going to learn in school, and see how inequality dating back hundreds of years, is even, to our own generation, we still see the residual effects of everything from that. So, and the actual change we've seen police reform in certain areas already starting to happen. We're seeing to where chokeholds are being banned, and Congress is getting together to actually implement laws, whether they meet all our preferred goals or not, but at least it's going to be a multi-step process at the end of the day, and this is the first step in really getting change going.
You're used to assessing the damage for insurance companies. How do you assess if this is a positive movement, and you know when to hold them, when to fold them, when to walk away, and when to run? Have you been in a protest that you thought was turning a little ugly, or do you think for the most part it's been positive?
For the most part, it's been positive, but I think a lot of it is natural human reaction to when you go out to protest and all of a sudden you see 150 police officers on the other side of the street walking, looking at you at the whole time, hands on their holsters. It comes off as threatening, and it kind of emboldens you even more. And if you've been out there, you'll see that police try to control these things to a degree. They want you to march down certain streets. They don't want you going in these big main areas. They don't want you blocking traffic. They don't want anything. So when you have a confrontation, it's fight or flight. So most people, when you're already in the situation and you already feel like your own neck's being stepped on, figuratively, you're going to push back. So definitely there is that, and things get escalated. But I think the majority of people are peaceful and they're not going to break the law. And at this point, they're really going to attempt to do things peacefully.
Now, Warren, some people may say you have the good life. You know, I know you grew up on Quindaro, and, you know, and you walk to school every day. So mad props to you, cousin. If you're watching, I see Martha Clark's watching, you'll remember Sharon Webb that ran our computer center. Well, Warren's her brother. They're brother and sisters. And so, but now, Warren, you were part of an all-right fraternity. You live in an all conservative upper crust neighborhood out of the inner city. Have you experienced real racism? I mean, aren't all your neighbors accepting and loving and having you over for tea? Why did you risk all these comforts to go out and protest?
Because, you know, I'm just like any other African American over the years. You know, in the past, when, you know, Black doctors lived next to janitors and everything, it's not necessarily because Black people didn't want advancement and to move to bigger and better neighborhoods. They weren't allowed to, you know. So that's kind of how things happen. So I'm just doing what I can for my family to live our best life, but at the same time, I recognize where I come from. I still travel throughout the city. I engage with people all over, and you know, racism knows no boundary. You know, whether there's a division street in your town or not, it can strike at any moment. So you don't ever want to get too comfortable to the point to where you think it's gone, especially in today's day and age when you turn on the news every day and there's some kind of incident going on. So yeah, so we must stay vigilant.
Thank you so much. Isaiah, I see you're driving, so don't take your eyes off the road. But Isaiah, you have been in a pretty much all white upper crust firm for a while. And those men have seemed to embrace you in the engineering field as the brightest and most brilliant and successful education wise. Do you believe that there is still a divide there? Did you see other brothers and sisters working in those offices? Do you think the opportunities are there for us and we have to work harder?
Honestly, I believe that we have to work harder than the average person, really, because to get to that position, it took me a while. Like it took me a while to even get to that point, to Honeywell. And it's like, really, it's a lot of obstacles. It's like a lot of darts being thrown at you, and each dart you get hit by pushes you back 3 or 4 steps.
So you got to be smart and also resilient. And there's a couple other things before you break in and have your position solidified. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you gotta be willing to take a lot of hits, because it's like, for some reason it feels like it's not about how hard you can hit. It's more about how long you can get hit and keep moving forward, and how much you can take and keep moving forward.
What kind of mentors did you have during your internship that told you not to give up?
I had a mentor named Doug. He was a white guy, say he was in his 50s. He was helping me out and assisting me, and he was telling me that that things would get hard, you know, throughout the process and going to school and everything, and I had to face car problems and everything, and he helped me through it to get there. But some of the vice president at Honeywell was actually against me. He actually didn't want me to even work at Honeywell.
And did you see other African Americans that were in offices or working with the team? Did you see that some were breaking the glass ceiling and becoming successful engineers?
Yeah, I seen a couple. I actually got a friend named Alexander Wren who actually works at Honeywell still, and he
That
feels
mhm.
like he's doing pretty good. But he said he said it reminds him of high school. Like it's like you're separated into groups still, and it's like you got the popular or the rich side, and then you got the one that's barely making the minimum there. And it's like he said it's like you're sitting at a table with high and like in high school again.
There's a lot of cliques, a lot of politics, and I think white
Yeah,
people may say that too. But there are some extra added barriers. It sounds like that we're dealing with. Do you see any women there?
yeah, it's a lot of women there.
Wow. So the women are doing better than the black guys, huh?
Yeah, honestly, the highest manager that I've seen was a woman.
Wow. That we're making strides. It seems like we have a way to go. You know, we're talking with the labor unions here in St. Joseph. I only know of one African American engineer. We're still looking for plumbers. We're looking for welders. And I've talked to a few students, and they said, you know, Hilliers was not offered to me. I didn't know I had those options. Had I known, I probably would have taken advantage of that. But there's a lot of people I think right now that are listening to the conversation and willing to give someone else, a person of color, a place at the table. So that's one reason why we're doing the show, just so people can see there are thousands and thousands of Isaiahs out there that are wanting to work, wanting to learn a craft, learn a trade, and become a part of the workforce, the qualified, skilled. We don't mind washing, you know, dishes. We don't mind doing toilet stools and being the laborers because, you know, everybody's got to start somewhere, but we are also looking for people to be gainfully employed and leaders, and also part of the skilled workforce, part of the professional team. So keep hope alive. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for not giving up. Hopefully someone will see the show today and open the door for you. I want to ask, I know a lot of people have, when they talk about protesting, they want to just say they shouldn't be burning everything down, and they put protest and rioting together. I was disheartened to see that a Frederick Douglass monument or face or marble statue was destroyed. And so some of it has no rhyme and reason. We talked a few weeks ago with Bishop Howell in Minneapolis. That was a black pastor that said, I'm having to hire security so anarchists will not burn down my church. And so he is still standing today. We're praying for the churches across America. I said, are these boys from the hood being disruptive? And he's like, no, they're anarchists that just want to overthrow government. And they're using this as an opportunity to play upon the emotions of the folks that want racial equality. They may get involved, you know, black people may get involved too, but the people that are burning down the stuff and defacing everything is not necessarily the people that are mad about racial equality. Do you feel that it does come to a time where we have to have a Boston Tea Party and it gets a little bit more aggressive? Hello, Reina, welcome to the show. We'll let you get warmed up and then we'll ask you to come on in. So anybody feels like we can't professionally talk and iron out our differences and there is a place for the rioting, or you think we just need to keep peacefully marching? What are your thoughts?
When you talk about rioting and protesting, there's a real big difference. I mean, we have hundreds of thousands of people taken to the streets specifically so their voices can be heard. And when we talk about tearing down statues, I think the whole point with that is not necessarily the figure that the statue represents, but like we have people tearing down statues, and the whole idea behind justifying it is, why do we even really need these in the first place? You know, when we talk about like when we tear down Confederate leaders statues and old slave owner statues, really prolific slave owners, well, it's just more like, I don't necessarily need a statue to actually know history. So the fact that these statues have been erected really just kind of tramples on my feelings when it comes to my past and my history. People say that it represents their histories and their what's the word, their heritage and stuff like that. But like for me, I don't even know my heritage beyond a couple of generations. So like it doesn't stand, I don't feel the same way about it. That, I mean, now you could argue that just because I don't feel the same way about it, that like maybe I shouldn't tear it down or something like that. But if it stands as a sign of a time that is long gone and represents a division that we don't want in this country anymore, I think as the people that will one day run this country, and as we're, slowly becoming those people, I think it's up to us to make that decision whether or not we want those to stand in our faces every day wherever we go. So on my front, I don't think that I would call destruction of those types of pieces of those types of properties as rioting. Now there are people that incite violence or incite riots and things like that, but the protesters are all, largely peaceful people. And you have people who we've recorded certain instances of people absolutely, like, they either tied them to the police or something of that effect, actually, like breaking glass and stuff like that, trying to get a rise out of people. You have random people showing up who aren't even protesters at all with guns and other various weapons. There's a guy with a bow and arrow for some reason, causing problems, making people afraid and on edge and stuff like that. But it's not like these people are being attacked by the protesters. I mean, protesters are not rioters. We have a reason to do what we're doing. I mean, a question you asked earlier, like why do you feel like the young people are moved to even stand up in the first place? Well, like, part of American heritage is to stand up for what you believe in and to be willing to speak up when you feel treaded on or when you feel like your rights have been impeded upon. So I feel like us using that American heritage and, like, sort of accessing our American spirit should be something that we celebrate more than actually have to politicize. Because, like, I think it's just important that we even start a dialogue in the first place. And if it has to be with hundreds of thousands of people raising their voices, I don't see why that has to be such a dividing factor. The whole point is to bring people together, to let us know that there's a big problem that we need to solve.
And, to kind of add on to that, we just have to remind people that this whole country was built on rebellion against tyranny in the very first place. That, we were promised that all men were created equal. And if that isn't being lived up to, then we're no different than the founders, to where at some point, if your demands and these promises and our protections were promised by the Constitution, Declaration of Independence aren't being allotted to everyone equally, then the next steps would be to rise up, whether it's the equivalent of a Boston Tea Party, knocking down these statues, striking fear into people that change is coming. And that's how deals get done. You have to have leverage at the end of the day. If you just end up talking and walking and you don't get anything coming from that, you're going to have to up the ante, and you're going to have to show that you are serious and that you're going to demand your rights. And they're not just going to give them to you all the time. So could it get to that point? Yes, but I don't think we're quite at that step yet.
I do absolutely agree.
Go ahead.
I think that marching and protesting are great. They definitely do have to happen. And I'm not saying that we need to burn anything down, but I do absolutely believe that some actions do have to happen for them to understand that we are serious. I think in the past, people took Dr. Martin Luther King peacefully protesting and thinking that, now everything's great. But that man was killed peacefully protesting. You know what I mean? And so at the end of the day, all the work that he did, he made us move. He progressed us a very good deal. However, things are not over, and they have to understand that that man who everyone holds high, was murdered, and he was also peacefully protesting. So I think that at some point, actions do have to be taken. I'm not saying that I have all the answers or anyone has all the answers of how they need to be taken. However, again, like Warren was saying, these peaceful protesters are being met with police officers. These peaceful protesters who don't have any weapons at all are being met with police officers who have guns, and even if they're rubber bullets. I've seen reporters being shot in the eye, and now they no longer have their eyesight because they were reporting. You know what I mean? And that's peaceful. That's not even a protest. They were just reporting the matter. Or, people who are peacefully protesting who are being, met with these fear tactics from the police, or whoever may be inciting those fear tactics of people who are coming in and like the guy with the bow and arrow, or somebody who might plow down people with their car just because they're protesting. So at some point, marching and peaceful protesting definitely has to happen, coupled with action, coupled with people who are going to the polls. Everyone needs to be voting. Coupled with taking actions and supporting those Black businesses, and finding out and researching other ways that you can be helping. I think that now, because there's nothing going on, and because everyone's trapped in the house and we are all, seeing this live, it makes people feel like, okay, now I actually have no excuse to support. Like, it's not that I don't have the time to go out there and protest. It's not that I don't have the resources to do it. Everyone in every city has been out there protesting and doing their due diligence to try to make change. And I think that's why ultimately we have been seeing changes. But people are definitely uncomfortable, like Warren was saying, but they need to be continuously uncomfortable for us to be able to make change. And if that's knocking over a statue, then so be it. That's your history, that's your heritage. Our heritage was, this country was built on our backs. And as much as we'd like to say, that we've made those changes, or that we have progressed from where we were, but we definitely do have a long way to go. So I don't think that anyone is saying, well, there are people out there saying this, but I'm not saying burn everything down. However, I think that for us to just completely write off the people who are violently protesting is in some kind of ways misinformed or maybe misguided, because unless you're out there on the front lines getting shot with rubber bullets and you're out there peacefully protesting, I don't think anybody's able to really to not justify what's going on. You know what I'm saying? So I've been fortunate to not have anybody be shot by the police, or have any violence that way. But I have had stories of, like, my boyfriend's family, his grandmother's brother was murdered. Actually, both of her brothers were murdered closely in the same proximity by police officers, and they were just going about their lives. So I feel like until it's really close to home, then, then we might not necessarily react in those same manners. But people are tired. We are tired. And I think that's why we're seeing that change.
I'm going to just jump in there real quick. What I have noticed is when you look, going back to the initial question, when you look at why millennials, is that a term that you call each other? Are y'all the
snowflakes?
Okay. All right, snowflakes. I believe the reason why they are so energized is because witnessing the death on national TV news, it was captured, it was real, and injustice at that moment became real. We've read about it, maybe in books, maybe we've known someone, but to actually see that really woke a lot of people up. And because again, if the students that I teach, we've read about it, but they've never seen brutality like that before, and the real injustice that they saw that day, they're like, oh my gosh, this is what I experience on a day-to-day, maybe not like that, of course, but the type of oppression, the dismissiveness, the just not being understood, and or being misunderstood and then labeled. So I think that when you see the tearing down of statues, and because even I'm 88 years old, and I never looked at the Confederacy as traitors. Like, and I'm an educator. So what that did was that woke us up to a narrative that we have to change. We have to be a part of changing that narrative that exists, that underlying narrative that feeds into the disenfranchisement of different people. And so what I would like to see companies, educators, do is really understand who you teach and who you employ, and really have a cultural sensitive training, and be sympathetic, be empathetic, and learn. It's all about us opening up and learning from one another.
Can I comment on that?
Yes, we're welcoming Reina Foster to the show right now. And she came out of her comfort zone as soon as she graduated with all of her white friends, and they went and protested. I know. Woo! I was like, girl, make sure you got mace, make sure you got some water, your running shoes. Get caught up in that. Then we was praying and pleading the blood of Jesus over Miss Reina Foster. Reina, go on and comment. Thank you for coming to the show.
Hi. Okay, so I feel like my generation, like, we're not afraid. We don't have much to lose, and when we see injustice, I feel like we're more willing to fight. And so when older generations start to belittle our generation, I feel like it's because we're not willing, or we're willing to what's it called? The things that our generations before us were so blindly believing, we're willing to
challenge that, maybe.
Yes.
And say, no, it's not like that.
Yeah, we're willing to question the things that generations before us blindly believed. So I just feel like they want to belittle us a lot because we just want to question everything, because we're like, why are you guys doing this?
And even
that's a good point. I think we just representing the older, mature, wise generation. I think we just don't fight the same way because we don't want to be just called mad, angry Black people. I think we've been livid, we've been upset. We were like, I think, there's something going on there. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I just think the way we fight may be different. It just may be different. Go ahead, Warren.
I was just going to say, to kind of tie into that, you start out that way, and I'm probably the oldest millennial here, like 34 or whatnot. And even though I've got a lot to lose at this point in my life, those same beliefs will now stick with you through your entire life, to where you're willing to lose everything. I'm willing to go march and possibly lose my eyesight from a rubber bullet if that's what it takes to bring about change. And I think it just ties back into kind of like Robbie was saying, she hadn't even known that the South was basically an enemy of the state. The U.S. wouldn't exist today. That just shows how broken the system is and how you're indoctrinated from the very young age in our education system. Go grab a book from a American history class, and I can tell you from my experience, it was just like a 30-minute lesson is all I got on that part of our history. And let's jump to the Industrial Revolution or something really quick, and just kind of sprinkle over that as if that's not happened. And like I said, even with the modern day, people act like this is generations upon generations ago. And like Reina said, we sit back and see what the prior generation did. They might have been more quiet, like you were saying, and we said, these problems still exist. So obviously something is not working. So we're not just going to keep banging our heads against the wall. We're going to try something else at some certain point. And that's where we're at.
And I think that we're more conscious today because of the constant rhetoric of hate and division that is dividing us, which keeps us woke to our pain, which keeps us woke to the inequality that exists. And I think that when it falls on already people or neighborhoods that are already suffering, and you hear this hate that has risen to the very, very top of our government, and you see, wow, you're just amazed, because as a teacher, I teach against that. I teach against, treating people differently and talking negatively about people. And to see this actually happen is just, it's just very unsettling. I mean, it's just, a person who I consider myself a humanitarian, I love all people, but to be faced with that hate and that division makes you wake up to things that, it makes you do what Reina says. You're questioning everything that you have ever believed in, and to say, oh my gosh, this is the world that I live in now. And it's a reality check.
Wow, that's very profound, Doctor. Again, if you're just now tuning in, you're watching the Mid-City Excellence Solutions Summit, where we not just talk about the problems, but we're going to also try to see how we can repair it. But we know we have to let our voices be heard in many different ways. The topic tonight, we have Brilliant, Black, and Bold, the American Dream. We have a family reunion right here. Usually we just talk about this stuff. 4th of July, we had such a heated debate that my dad, almost 80 years old, said, we got to stop and pray, y'all. We can't leave like this. And wasn't nobody throwing nothing. We didn't call anybody out of their name, but you sometimes can't conquer those things you won't confront. And so we're confronting it. We're trying to articulate it so it's just not an emotional shouting match. We don't want to get to the rioting part. We want peace in our city. We don't want our Wendy's burnt down. Everybody knows, Lord knows, we need a good cheeseburger. Oh my goodness. We don't want people to die. We don't want people to get shot. I don't think that's what we want. But I think, are we kind of coming to a consensus that all systems are broke? Are we just talking about police brutality here? Are we talking about political? I hear Dr. Robin talking about that. I hear law enforcement, education, healthcare. I mean, why is all the Black people died of COVID? Come on, y'all. Financial. I mean, is there one system that we can say is working well and we have all people included? Do we need a total overhaul?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think everyone acknowledges that this is a systemic issue, and that when you build a country based off racism and slave labor, there's going to be a reckoning at some point. Everyone, they always say, what happens to a dream deferred? Well, we're living it right now. So we're tired of it being deferred. We're going to take action. So back to the systems, though, like we've already talked about education, how people don't even know what's going on, why Black people's plight is the way it is after hundreds of years of slavery, after, not being able to vote, not being able to get on in on all the homesteading that was going on in this country, getting left behind. You've literally, if you imagine a group of people swimming in a pool, we've had our heads pushed under the water this whole time trying to get air, and everyone else is just kind of wading there, and we're just like, what about us? So, I mean, we've got to fix the education system. We know that the way schools are funded through property taxes and everything like that cause a disproportionate amount of money to go to richer areas versus lower areas. That needs to be done away so you get education. We know our political system's broken because there's no compromise going on, hardly at all. Monetarily, like I said, we're already starting, the gun's gone off and we've got to wait 2 to 3 seconds before we even start the race. So yeah, we do need a hand to catch up to everyone else through the political system, which isn't doing that, setting us monetarily, and our schools are failing us. And then that just ties back into the rhetoric of the police forces, not all of them, but that, oh, these are Black guys, and the description of a Black man walking down the street I've left Jesus Tabernacle late at night after helping out, and I've had St. Joe PD pull me over and say I match the description. And when I ask what it is, it's a black man. And that's all I get. And that should never be acceptable in a free country.
Did you tell them you love Jesus and you just left the prayer meeting? Did you have a chance to explain that and tell them how smart you was?
You don't care about that.
You tell them your
hold
uncle
up your
was the
degree in front of
bishop.
these police officers. That was just.
Be like, which Jesus?
Yeah. Oh wait, okay, we ain't gonna get there. The white Jesus, the black Jesus, or the brown Jesus. Okay, that was 2 weeks ago. That was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's a whole nother.
So.
But yeah, no, the whole system needs reform. I don't think we're at the point of revolution yet, but I do think people need to acknowledge that revolution happens around the world all the time. You look at what happened to the former USSR and all the European blocs that came from that, and all the Civil War, everything that goes on in Africa from all the British colonization, people having to fight back. There was no amount of marching that was going to bring peace in some of those situations. When we're on the verge of a quasi dictatorship and you have technically minority rule, then where the most people voting for something don't necessarily get to say that, then yeah, there is going to be oppression, and you're going to have to break the system down potentially to rebuild the entire thing back up.
Wow. We have a question coming in from Facebook Live, and it says, do you think since we do not teach Black history in the schools, or we may not teach it effectively, should we teach that on our own? Should we set up our own video modules and make others subscribe to us and say, this is what really happened? Because one of our protesters here in town told me today, Black History Month consisted of them watching Roots here at our school district. And I said, please tell me you didn't watch the whole thing. She said, I asked the teacher if I could leave the room because I was sick to my stomach. And so they watched portions of Roots in an elementary school. Dr. Robin, Dean of Students here down in Nashville, are you surprised that our students aren't trying to come up with their own narrative right now? Do you hear that education needs to be reformed, and who should teach Black history? Because here, and in many schools, it's the Black people were introduced with slavery. So it seems like to me that we talk about like 3 white people went over to Africa and stole all of these folks. And they don't realize it was probably some Nigerians and probably some Liberians involved in the slave trade too. And we were doctors and lawyers and principals and teachers before we came here. But we start with the Black man as the lowest on the totem pole and being ignorant and not knowing the language and being property. So who should teach Black history since it's not always as culturally sensitive?
Well, I believe that it should be taught in public schools because the status quo as it is perpetuates that narrative that we were talking about, that narrative that needs to change about who we are and where we come from and all of that. And once that narrative shifts about who we are, once that changes, then, for example, when I'm teaching my students, I'm affirming them. Yes, they have issues, they have problems. I can meet them where they are, but I also have an understanding of who, not just what I'm teaching, but who I'm teaching. And so if I'm talking to any educators out there and you are teaching predominantly Black students, I'm asking you to please read, study up on cultural responsive teaching. And please, as a teacher, an educator, or anyone that is dealing with little lies, please address whatever preconceived notions that you have about little Black kids or little Chinese kids or whatever. Make sure you understand that you are perpetuating if you do not address your biases. And if you bring them into the classroom, you are contributing to that negative narrative that they already have been subscribed to. So it's really up to us, everyone that's on this panel, to be participants of that narrative change, that reprogramming our minds to believe that we don't have to give into our anger or be this thug that this is how I've been told that I am, or live up to this narrative that people tell me that I am. I have to do, like Reina said, investigate, question, where are my roots? Where did I come from? Who am I? And the panel here, you're at the age where you can dive into that and make that investment and do all of that. But for the little ones, they need people in their lives that are going to be culturally sensitive to what they're going through.
Wow, that's very profound. We are going to wrap up the show in a little bit, but I'm going to ask you all, are you still singing the American National Anthem? A lot of people feel like we're throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Some people say keep the baby, change the water. But now we have the NFL coming up with a happy medium that says we're going to start out with the Negro National Anthem. And some people are like, what? What is that? There's a Negro National Anthem. And why can't we just be all one country? Why we got to talk about the Negro National Anthem? And so how do you all feel about that? I know, Jordan, you took a profound stand right when Colin Kaepernick was taking that kneeling. You kneeled, you prayed, you did whatever you have to do. And it was an all-white team you were with at the time for the dancers at our alma mater. Now you have a degree from there. But after that stance, the president, Dr. Vardabedian, stood with you and said, how can we be a college that promotes freedom of speech? And then we tell her she can't say it. But now a lot of people were mad because at K-State University, we have one white student that makes a joke about George Floyd. And now we have people saying, oh, he needs to be kicked out of school because he said that. And some people are being fired from their jobs because they won't say Black Lives Matter, or because they say all lives matter, my life matters. So where are we going with this as we're trying to fix the foundation, repair the breach, but also, do we all have freedom to do whatever we want to do? And if we do, does that mean the KKK has to exist alongside with Black Lives Matter?
If I can
Bryan.
say something. Personally, I 100% stand for freedom of speech and freedom of expression, but I believe the idea behind it is that you can say whatever you want, you can believe whatever you want, but the whole movement that we're going about right now is to change that, is to change what people believe or what they might believe is acceptable in their own society. So the more you go, I'm learning a lot about a lot of the people that I knew about, like all the things that they accept when we talk about policy change and stuff like that. And it tells me where they stand, like not just on a political place, but like in a social aspect. So I think when we say the KKK shouldn't exist, I think the mindset of the KKK shouldn't exist. They can meet and say how much they don't like people all they want, but at the same time, the objective is to make sure that they don't feel that way, because it's a feeling that's bred with ignorance. And the cure for ignorance is knowledge. And you can gain knowledge about people by talking to them, just listening to them, or traveling. In fact, that's something that we don't get a lot of in America, is travel in the first place. And like, that's the greatest way that you could possibly go and see another culture. But I think personally, freedom of speech must stand. That's what we're using in the first place when we protest and everything like that. But I definitely believe that we need to, address that certain things don't need to exist. That's what we're doing in the first place.
You can address it, but you recognize the freedom is still there for people to oppose you. Are you saying no? Some people are saying right now, if you oppose me, I'm going to coin that as hate speech because you have been offensive to me. Now, I can understand if it's a threat, but right now we're not talking about I'm going to shoot you, I'm going to kill you. We're talking about people having the First Amendment right, even if we don't like it, to say things that are offensive. Does the white student at K-State have the American freedom to say, a bad joke about George Floyd. He said, what he said was, he has been sober for 1 month. That's one thing we can probably all agree on. But he's been dead for 1 month. So he's like, Black people are only sober when they're dead. So that was kind of a slam. Does he have a right to say that? It's a bad joke.
Now, on
Bryan.
that, a man that man has the freedom to say whatever he wants to say, but the platform that he says it on does not have to support what he has to say. They do not have to allow him to say it there. Facebook can take down whatever they want. Twitter can take down whatever they want. They did it to Donald Trump a couple weeks ago, or was it last week or something like that? They took down one of his ridiculous tweets because it doesn't belong there. They don't have to allow him to speak on their platform. He can say whatever he wants. He can feel however he wants. But it's like, I don't have to let a guy come in my house and say all this ridiculous junk. So I believe that the guy who tells the bad joke, sure, he can tell the bad joke, but they don't have to let him represent their school. They don't have to do whatever they want. Now, I know
He needs to accept consequences.
Yes, consequences.
Mm-hmm.
You try to do that in a professional environment, and you're going to find out that companies have codes of conduct and schools have the same thing, professionalism policies. And you can say whatever. All that means is you're not going to go to jail at the end of the day for saying it, but you're going to be held accountable. You're going to be viewed as the village idiot at the end of the day. And you do deserve to be shamed and shunned if you go around just saying nonsense like that. So I have no problem if K-State wants to take a stand, point to something, and I know they're changing their code of conduct now to address that in the future. So I understand that not retroactively doing it, but yeah, making positive change to protect people, especially minorities or people who are disadvantaged from the majority is what this country is all about at the end of the day, or at least what we should be striving for. So yeah, say it, but be ready to be held accountable at the same time.
That's the whole idea behind our change in the first place. We don't have to let you be the loudest voice. That's one of our biggest problems right now. We have a lot of people with hate in their heart. However, when I say a lot, I mean it's actually, a small minority that has a really loud voice.
And I think people are confusing, I guess, like what that guy did with protesting. A lot of things that people that are using this hate speech or people that are combating Black Lives Matter with All Lives Matter. First of all, that argument, All Lives Matter should encompass Black Lives Matter. And so you'd think that wouldn't be a rebuttal, but in that phrase or that rhetoric behind that is rooted in them really not believing that Black Lives Matter. So I think protesting or taking a stand to even say the bare minimum, Black Lives Matter is the bare minimum of what we're even asking for. We haven't even got to touch the systemic racism or systemic issues because we're just trying to tell you that we matter. That's the bare minimum for anything else. Our history has shown that when we came to this country, we weren't even deemed human. We were deemed less than dogs. We were deemed property. And so in this sense, somebody coming to you and saying all lives matter, trying to basically erase what you're saying as far as Black Lives Matter, it really, really shows that they're just dismissive and they don't want to hear what you have to say. And B, I personally do believe that not saying that phrase all lives matter is deemed in racism, but typically the ones who are using that to combat what you're saying, that is rooted in some form of bigotry or racism or something in that matter. Because if they were really believing all lives matter, you would believe that Black Lives Matter. You would believe that our Mexican brothers and sisters who are in cages right now's lives matter. You know what I mean? You're not fighting for those things. You're not taking those extra steps to make sure that all lives matter. So that argument is dismissive. I think alongside with protesting and we're not protesting this, we shouldn't be confusing the protest with it being a political stance, because these are human issues. We're not anybody, no matter if you are left wing, right wing, you can say Black Lives Matter. You can support us. It doesn't matter who you're voting for. This is not a political stance. And so people who are also trying to make this a political issue, or our business won't speak on that, we don't get involved in politics, or our church won't speak on that, we don't get involved with politics, or anything of that nature, they need to understand that that rhetoric is dismissive and divisive in the sense of you choosing whatever your obligation to that company or to that church or to whatever organization is, is more important than the lives of those Black people. So I did take a knee. I did have heavy backlash during that time. In 2000, I think it was 16 when I did that. And, as I'm marching to the field, I had people yelling at me, cursing at me, spitting at me at Missouri Western State University, in 2016. And here we are 4 years later, and people are still being shot. And, Breonna Taylor was in her home during COVID and got shot. You know what I mean? Shot and murdered in her own home. And so these are not political issues. These are issues of Black lives mattering. That is the bare minimum of what we're asking for. We can't even get to all the other systemic problems because we're simply settling for Black lives mattering. So until we get to that point, we can't even move forward. And I think that's why things are getting so aggressive so quickly. And I think if things do not change, we will soon see a revolution, and that's not a question. So I definitely do believe that things need to change, and my generation is going to be the one to do it. So that's all.
In my generation.
Yeah.
We have to eliminate some of the partisanship in our country. It's so unbelievably divisive. We somehow managed to turn wearing masks into a Republican Democrat thing. I don't even know how that came up, or something that has people to think, I don't know, something to do with Bill Gates being Satan. I don't know. They're crazy. It's gotten really out of hand, if you ask me.
And the fact that we even have to have this conversation in the middle of a pandemic is really unsettling. We should be focusing on our health. And here we go as Black people, once again, having to fight for our lives aside from what's at hand. So I don't think that we're trying to start an uprising. We just want you to care. And that's really the end of it,
And I think the fear and the ambivalence to that the Black Lives Matter is the you know it. You know that Black Lives Matter, and they've keeping that secret from the world and from ourselves, and that is what they're more upset about than anything. Is the fact that we are awakening up to who we are, and what we have to offer, and our brilliance, and our talent, and we're manifesting that. And so when you finally recognize who you are and whose you are, you can be what you need to be. And that's the fear.
We need another hour for this show. We have the Merica dream here. We call this Solution Summit tonight the Brilliant Black and Bold. Our young people are not backing back down. They are not just angry. They are actually wanting something out of this. So someone wrote in on our live stream and said that I think this Black national anthem at NFL games is a symbolic gesture. It's a start, it's sweet, but exactly what are they doing to change things for people of color? Some people were kind of mad about Mahomes getting I don't know how many millions of dollars. Isaiah, Warren, Bryan, you're down there in the 500 million. Hopefully he pays his tithes or donates to Mid-City Excellence so we can continue the work. But nevertheless, other people were saying that is way too much. I cannot believe that happened. And someone says, believe me, the NFL owners and the team owners are making way more money than Mahomes making as a player. Keep that in mind. So what is it that you want? We're trying to fix the system, and there are a lot of non-minorities that are at the table listening. Some of them are mad, some of them are marching, some people are going to the polls, some people are on their knees praying. I had 6 white pastors call me and say, what do you need? How can we pray for you? So if the world is yours, young people, tonight, I want to ask you, how are you going to use all your critical thinking skills, your problem solving skills, conflict resolution skills, come up, devise some type of proposal to submit to a Fortune 500 company, to the political systems, to the Board of Education, who is going to make some decisions about if they're going to diversify things. And I'm not saying just because we Black, they should always pick us, but I'm just saying we're removing some excuses and barriers by presenting the bright, the bold, the brilliant, the Black. What is it that you're going to ask for at the end of the day after you march? What kind of world do we need to leave for you, your family, and your children? This is your opportunity to make your proposal known. So in closing, I need everybody to take a minute. What are we trying to get people to wake up to? What do we want? Reparations, repair of the breach, just give me a place at the table, just hire my bright and brilliant nephew. If Honeywell don't do it, I need some unions to call him. He's got skills and talents. We got a photonics specialist. It may not be a job. What is it that you want? So in closing, everybody give your closing argument right now, because the world is yours. People are listening, and there's going to be people. We have already had, I told you a couple weeks ago on the show, a white man risked his life to bring my husband's grandfather to Missouri the night before his lynching. And then he went back 2 weeks later and got the whole entire Arrington Warren family. Had he not done that, we would not, my husband would not be here. I may be here, but I would be married to him. So thank you, white brother from Arkansas, that snuck him out. Otherwise, we would have had another history like Jordan says. She has 2 people in her boyfriend's family that were killed, and they didn't get to have any more contributions to society. So we have Dr. Robin, who's defending her dissertation on Tuesday. Everybody point hands in Jesus' name. Let her get her doctorate and come to St. Joseph and diversify the principal staff. Or Kansas City. We'll even take Kansas City. No, we need you in St. Joseph. So Dr. Robin Feline, what do you think is a good thing to ask as a professional for the world that's watching now?
I would say to not be complicit, to embrace all, and just really acknowledge everyone, acknowledge hard work, dedication, resilience. Each one of us have a story, we have a context, and we cannot separate. We have to get to know people based upon who they are, and that's what I would say. Is if I was looking for an employer, and I would ask them to be one that embraces all cultures and respects humanity, and wants to spread love between races.
Thank you so much, Dr. Robin Lemon. We appreciate you coming on the show. Who's next? What are we going to ask for? The world is yours. You have a carte blanche.
If I'm talking to a Fortune 500 CEO, I'm asking for their workforce to reflect their actual clientele, because that's going to give you firsthand experience on what these people are living, experiencing, going to help you cater your product to them. And it's just going to bring a diverse group of opinions and ideas. If you just have one monolithic group that kind of thinks a certain way, if you have someone thinking outside the box, that could be the next big thing. So you're only going to be helping yourself. When people see that, it's going to, especially minorities. If I see your company's got a poster with at least some Black people in it, you're at least trying, then yeah, it's going to just even make your appeal broader to everyone. And in just a general sense, what we want, I think, one, we need better education. People need to know their history. They need to know that this country was founded on revolution in the first place, that they didn't want to be oppressed. That's how we ended up getting here, that it's never upheld those standards, and that the current policing and laws that we have to deal with aren't allowing that to happen. We want actual fundamental change and reform. We want police wearing body cameras. We want them to be turned on all the time. Otherwise, you're going to be fired if you have a civil interaction. We want politicians to actually work together to get change. Otherwise, they're going to need to be kicked out too. And at the end of the day, we just want the American dream. I'm not asking for reparations beyond what anyone else has, but I am asking for there to be a even playing level from everyone. Like I said, that starts with education, job opportunities, and making sure everyone can actually believe in what they're being sold.
No, I want the 40 acres and the mule, Warren.
Well, I mean, that wouldn't hurt either.
No, that is
I
very
do.
profound. We want equity. We want equality. It's that simple. That was profound. Thank you so much. Who's next? Who's next? What do you want? The world is yours.
I absolutely want reparations, and here's why. I think that because we have gone through everything that we've gone through, every other group that has gone through plight in our country has some form of reparations, except for the Black people. And I absolutely do believe that we not only, I'm not going to say entitled to it, but I definitely do believe that it is a necessary need. Coupled with reparations, I think we do need systemic change. And I think that starts with, again, with education. That starts with, some form of financial stability, because, everyone knows it's hard as a Black person to get a small business loan, or it's hard to get a mortgage or anything of that nature. And that system is specifically built for us not to succeed. And the ones who have succeeded, there are Black people out there who still believe, I've succeeded, I've made it. So, everybody else needs to pull up their bootstraps and make it, you know what I mean? And so some people have become, less sensitive and may have lost touch. And so I do believe that we need policy reform, and we need more people of color in those rooms to be able to make those changes. I definitely do believe that alongside with that, we do need our reparations, and that could be financial reparations along with any kind of systemic reparations as well. But I definitely do believe that there has to be some way to level the playing field, because as much as we march, as much as we, we protest and do whatever is necessary, at the end of the day, the reason that we're still behind as a group is we are not collective, and we don't necessarily work together as Black people as well. And so I feel like at some point we as Black people have to unite. And if I'm talking to a Fortune 500 company as well, I do definitely believe that they need to reflect their customer base as well. But we as Black people have to unite just as much as we are asking everybody else to unite as well. But it's not going to end with just Black people. We have to have our white brothers and sisters, our Hispanic brothers and sisters, anybody else. They need to be on board just as well, because we cannot do this on our own. So everybody else has benefited from Black lives, and so everybody else needs to participate in that as well.
Wow, thank you so much, Jordan. You want at least 30,000 for being spit on, right? No,
I mean, just something simple.
yeah. Well, thank you for being courageous and taking that stand. And because you took that stand, the whole team became diversified. And so you didn't have to be the only one, but also you got the attention of the university president that says you have a right and freedom of speech and expression, just like everybody else does, even if everybody doesn't agree with it. So we have a few more to weigh in. What do you want in the end? If you have the attention of the nation, you have your own show, you have a Fortune 500 company. The NFL did say they're pledging like $500 billion to nonprofits. I'm waiting on that grant. I'm looking for it. So, what kind of world what do we need to do right now so it's a better world for you and your family? Isaiah, Reina?
I think we need accountability. We need it to be harder to become a cop because it's easier to become a cosmetologist or it's easier to become a cop than to become a cosmetologist. And a lot of people are saying that the reason cops shoot Black people is because they're scared. They didn't know what to do, so they shot. But if you're in this kind of job, you shouldn't react that way when you're scared. You know what I mean? Like, I think that they need more preparations and just and I've heard when people say to defund the police that the KCPD got $207 million, and if you just put 1 million of those dollars back into the community, like how much would it help? So I think that if we put more of our focus into the community and away from the police, then we could invoke a lot of change.
Wow. Those are some things to think about. You know, if you're afraid to do the job, then maybe you need more training, or if you're using excessive force because you don't, you know, I think the hard part with Black people is we see other people shot in the leg or tased, you know, in the arm or something, or they argue with the cops, you know, non-minorities argue with the cops and they walk away alive. And so I think it's very difficult for us to see that there is a difference in how we're treated. And I think every probably person on the show can come up with a couple of instances where they felt like they've been profiled, including
and I've
us
also
and my husband.
I've heard Blue Lives Matter, but when you sign up to become a cop, you take an oath. You know what you're getting into. I did not know what I was getting into when I was being born. I didn't know, like, I can't take off my Black skin. They can take off their uniform, you know. And also when I met with the All Lives Matter, I feel like, of course all lives matter, but Black Lives Matter too. Black Lives Matter as well. And all lives don't matter until Black Lives Matter is basically what I think.
Very good. Reina, every time you went and protested, your white friends all went with you. Why do you think they marched besides they like you and love you as a human being?
Because I think they're not blind. Like, they can see what's happening. Like, I think they also have fear. Like, what if I didn't come home one night? What if a cop decided to stop me? And, you know.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing tonight. You're a courageous young lady, and we wish you well as you enter college in just a few weeks. So we'll be praying for your endeavors. Thank you so much, Reina.
Thank you.
Who do we have? Do we have Isaiah Williams and Bryan Alford? Bryan, did you weigh in?
Not quite yet, no.
Isaiah, did you weigh in?
No, not quite yet.
Yours now.
I will say, I do believe that the demon of inequality has bounded this nation in the path of destruction. And honestly, I believe that it does start in the schools, that we are taught, I feel that we're only taught our history and everything in a straight line instead of actually out. Like, we're most people, most Blacks really are taught that the president is the main thing that we need to focus on, that we need to vote on, that he would be the one to change everything. But really it's more than that. Like, we actually need to vote for the legislature who actually, you know, makes the laws and everything and puts all of that on the table. But it all starts it all starts at our first manipulation. And I feel in schools is our first manipulation that we're running into, that a lot of Blacks in a new age is being, you know, diverted from the real history, the real truth. But honestly, what I would tell a CEO is is just create something that doesn't bound a certain group. Create a system that isn't exclusive to just one side, whether it's the smart side or whether it's the less smart side, because at the end of the day, your company is based off of, your company runs off of the lowest person. The lowest person is who you know, is your weakness. You know, it's like a team. You have to build everyone up on the same stature if you want your company to be sufficient, if you want it to be at its finest, you know. But that's what I tell them.
Don't just rally around the executives. Open the door for a young entrepreneur or a person that wants to come in under an apprenticeship. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, because honestly, nowadays the really good people aren't the ones with college education or really a high school diploma, because at the end of the day, we should know that standardized testing doesn't show or even prove anything about your IQ or anything. It just, you know, it's just there for some reason to separate others from out of what they believe is a successful path. And
yeah, you know, they say education is based around reading smart and math smart. And if you can't get it in 45 minutes to an hour, we don't have time to pull that gift out of you and to nurture it. So you're right. If you can't articulate in a certain way, they're going to deem you special ed, or they're going to deem you that he can't be the brightest and brilliant for this format, which is why some of our youth are not even presented with welding and, you know, the trades and HVAC and, you know, let's just get them through school. You know, maybe they're just going to be a great laborer. So that's a good thing. So Fortune 500 people and people that are in the labor unions, let's look out for these people that may not actually show how smart they are on the standardized test. So we wish you well with your engineering pursuits, and also with the new company that you're starting. Instead of waiting around on someone to accept you at the table, I think you are courageous, Isaiah, for keeping the ball running. And I'm going to respond to your posts, your inboxes to Aunt Kimmy, and I'm going to do what I can do to help you. So thank you so much. Also, we have Bryan Alford, who's going to close out the show, and I guess we'll give you the last say tonight. The world is yours. You have the microphone. Don't drop the mic this time. Tell us exactly what you want and how you think we can heal this nation, and what is it that you want at the end of the day to create opportunities for you and your family.
Stop being afraid of Black people. Stop being afraid of poor white people. Stop abandoning veterans or people who can no longer support themselves, people who have mental health issues, people who once suffered through drugs or are suffering through drugs. I believe it's core. Some of the problems that affect Black people more visibly also affects a lot of other people in similar states. For instance, we have, when I said stop being afraid of poor white people and Black people, when it comes to police, the two most connected people are Black people and poor white people. They suffer the most, but somehow along the way, it seems like the majority of poor whites came to dislike Black people. Or it seems that we've had like a lapse in education that allowed people to be like, oh well, it must be the other guy. It must be the Black guy that's giving me all these problems. But I think we have so many system failures that we really need someone to step in, not necessarily to destroy the whole system, but we have a lot of reform to do. We have more ground to cover, and the work can never stop. And I'm not afraid of being called an angry Black man, because I can walk down the street wearing all Black like it's my usual style, and they'll think I'm a thug anyway. I ain't never done nothing like that. But that's just how it goes in the first place. if I raise my voice, they call me an angry black man. But sometimes I am an angry black man. Not a violent black man, but I am an angry black man. I will tell you when you're wrong. That's what we have to do at some point. We have to have people who are willing to speak up. And when you recognize that people are not going to go away, they're not going to stop talking. At the end of the day, I hope that we never have any kind of violent revolution or anything like that. I don't think it'll happen. I think people will be able to speak up, and God willing, people will be able to see that change needs to happen. And someone in the office or a politician or whatever, they're going to finally realize that once we start moving, come next term, you're not going to have a job. So I'm just saying, I want to unify people. And when it comes to schools, I want to make sure that we teach Black history, but not just Black history. I want to teach all history. If we could start the hashtag all history, can we please do that? Because I think, like my sister said, we have so many other people who have faced ridiculous challenges, just like Black people. With the spotlight is on us right now. So I think that while we have the mic, I think we need to understand that we need to, level things out. We need to lift each other up. While Black people have this loud voice, I think we need to bring everyone to the table so we can actually, talk about it. We can get things moving once and for all. So if I can say it again, stop being afraid of Black people, hashtag all history. Please, let's put an end to ignorance in this country. We have a really huge anti-intellectual thing going on right now, which is very scary, and it doesn't move us forward, no matter what you think. Not learning about your past or about the things that will help move us forward is just moving backwards. And backwards thinking is exactly what put us in the situation right now. So,
wow. Everybody give yourselves a hand. I tell you, again, we can't get it in all tonight because I can listen to our future leaders of America on this show all night. Please come out July 19th, 5 to 7. Hate has no home here. Sponsored with Behringer YWCA initiative to eliminate racism, and they're standing with Mid-City Excellence. These signs are only $20. You can buy 5 or 10 of them. We have many of them to put in your yards. So please help support our year-round effort. This is not going to be a one-hit wonder, but clearly, please come on out on July 19th. We have special Vice President of the National American Family Insurance, Janet Candy Embry, that's going to be here, and many other people will be here. We want to thank each of you for watching tonight. You can get a recorded session of this at www.visitmce.org. And I know young people, I don't have to say the www anymore. Visitmce.org. And so we want to thank everyone for being on the show. Again, prayers up to Dr. Robin Feline on Tuesday, and each of you as you pursue school and your careers. And also you can go to visitmce.org to invest in the Solution Summit or the Hate Has No Home forum that's coming up on the 29th, 5 to 7 p.m. at City Hall, south side of the building, which is Civic Center Park. So I'm going to end with just 2 quotes. One is from the Free Child Institute, and it says, "Only through actions do our words take meaning." And the last quote today is Freire says, "Washing one's hands of the conflict between the powerful and the powerless means to side with the powerful, not to be neutral." So we thank each and every one of you, wishing you a great evening, and thank you for watching the Solution Summit. Brilliant, Black, and bold, the dream, Merica. God bless you all. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.